Jex Roan moved carefully through the narrow corridor of the ruins. Dust floated in the beam of his wrist light, settling on walls that hadn't been touched in centuries. The ruins of old Illyris were silent now, abandoned after the elders claimed the surface for their own use. But beneath the ground, secrets still lingered. He crouched beside a collapsed archway, brushing away rubble. His gloved fingers traced strange markings carved into the stone, symbols not from any known elder language. They looked older, maybe even human. Jex frowned. That wasn't possible. His scanner beeped. A faint signal pulsed from deep underground. Buried tech. Non-elder. Human design. Could be nothing, he whispered to himself. But he didn't believe that. Not anymore. He slid through a cracked panel and entered a forgotten chamber. The air was stale, but the energy in the room made his skin prickle. At the center stood a sealed vault door, round, metallic, humming faintly. Unlike the rest of the ruins, this door was still powered. Jex stepped closer. His heart beat faster. The elders had claimed to protect knowledge for peace. They had erased thousands of years of human history, saying it was to stop war, chaos, and rebellion. Most people believed them. Jex never had. He pulled out a small device, a human-built decryptor he'd crafted in secret. He'd risked prison just for carrying it. Now he knew why he had. He connected it to the panel beside the door. Sparks flickered. Lights blinked. The vault responded slowly, unwilling, as if it remembered it wasn't meant to be opened. Then, with a deep hiss, the door unlocked. Inside, the room was cold and dark. A dim blue light glowed from the walls. Racks of old memory cores lined the shelves. At the center, a single console waited, still active. Jex stepped forward, his hands trembling. He activated the console. A holoscreen blinked on. Files opened. He scanned the headers. Projected evolution patterns. Homo sapiens. Potential threat levels. Containment directives. Earth division. He stared at the screen. His throat went dry. The elders hadn't saved humanity. They had stopped it. According to the data, humans were meant to evolve far beyond what they were now. Mentally, physically, even spiritually. But the elders had intervened. Quietly. Systematically. They had slowed Earth's progress, rewired its tech, controlled its culture, all to keep humanity from rising. They feared what humans could become. Jex backed away, heart pounding. Everything he'd suspected was true, maybe worse than he imagined. He knew what this meant. If this truth got out, everything would change. Trust in the elders would collapse. There could be chaos, war. But could he really walk away from this? He looked back at the glowing console. No, he whispered. They need to know. Jex reached for the memory cores and started copying the files. His hands moved fast now. Every second felt like a countdown. Far above, the surface remained quiet, but somewhere beyond the clouds, the elders were watching. And Jex Roan had just crossed a line no human was ever meant to cross. High above Illyris Prime, a silver transport ship descended slowly through the clouds. It was sleek, silent, and marked with the symbol of the elders, 3 glowing circles in a triangle pattern. The ship was not military, but everyone knew what it meant. It carried power. Inside the ship stood Saren Vox, tall and calm, dressed in a dark gray uniform. His face was unreadable. Sharp eyes. No emotion. He had served the elders for over 100 years. To many, he was a diplomat. To others, something more dangerous, an enforcer. Saren looked out the window as the surface of Illyris came into view. His orders were clear. Investigate unauthorized access to restricted ruins. Retrieve any stolen data. Contain the situation. He already knew who was responsible. He had read Jex Roan's name in the initial report. Curious little human, he muttered. Jex was back at his small research station, the stolen memory cores hidden deep in his pack. His mind was racing, but his face stayed calm. He couldn't risk suspicion. Not yet. The elders had sensors everywhere. He had already wiped the console records from the vault, but he knew that wouldn't be enough for long. He looked up when he heard the distant hum of a landing ship. His heart sank. Later that day, Saren arrived at the excavation site, accompanied by 2 silent drones that hovered beside him like shadows. The research team stood nervously. No one asked why he was there. They didn't need to. Saren scanned the group. His eyes settled on Jex. "Jex Roan," he said, voice even and cold. "Yes, sir," Jex replied, standing still. "There was a signal from beneath the ruins," Saren said. "Unauthorized power use. You were the only one on site during that time." "I was surveying a collapsed corridor," Jex said, keeping his tone neutral. "Maybe an old generator activated." Saren stared at him. "We'll review the scan logs, your access records, all data collected today." "Of course." Saren stepped closer. His presence was heavy, like gravity pressing down. "You've always been curious, Roan," he said. "Curiosity is not a crime, but it leads to difficult places, dangerous places." "I'm just doing my job," Jex said. Saren nodded slowly, but his eyes stayed locked on Jex's face. "You should remember the Elder's first command about your species," he said. "Never challenge them. There is wisdom in that. And consequences." Jex held his gaze. "Understood." Saren turned to leave but stopped at the doorway. "If there's anything you forgot to mention," he said without turning, "now would be the time." Jex said nothing. Saren walked away, drones following in silence. That night, Jex sat alone in his quarters, watching the copied files on his tablet. The truth was too big to carry alone, but sharing it meant exposing himself. He didn't know who to trust. He looked up at the stars through the window. The Elders had controlled humanity for generations, not with war, but with silence, limits, and hidden chains. And now he had the key to those chains. He clenched his fist. He had to run. He had to get off Elaris tomorrow, before Saren returned with questions Jex couldn't answer. Outside, the drones still hovered, watching, waiting. Jex Roan didn't sleep that night. He spent the dark hours packing what little gear he had: rations, medkits, nav chips, and the memory cores. His hands moved fast but steady. He knew what he had to do. If he waited, Saren would return with more questions, and soon after, more force. By dawn, Jex stood in the shadow of an old hangar far from the research station. It was built into the side of a cliff, hidden and forgotten. He'd found it months ago during a solo hike, back when he still believed he was only studying ruins. Inside the hangar sat a dusty, decommissioned survey ship, small, quiet, and fast. Not pretty, but it could fly. Jex powered it up. The engines coughed, then hummed to life. Systems flickered online. The ship still worked. He loaded the memory cores into the encrypted storage unit under the pilot's seat. Then he climbed in, sealed the hatch, and looked once more at the surface of Elaris. "This planet kept its silence long enough," he said. He launched into the sky, vanishing into the clouds. Saren Vox stood at the excavation site an hour later, reviewing the latest logs. Something felt wrong. "Where is Roan?" he asked. One of the local researchers shrugged. "Didn't show up for morning duty." Saren tapped his wrist console. A blinking red marker appeared. A hangar alarm had triggered. Unauthorized launch. He narrowed his eyes. "Lock down all spaceports. Send 2 interceptors after that ship." "He's running." Jex's ship cut through the atmosphere, heading toward the edge of the Elaris system. He didn't have weapons. If they caught him, he had no defense. But he had something more important. Proof. His destination, Orion Drift, a hidden moon on the edge of Elder space. There, an old rebel contact still operated a black market relay station. If Jex could get there, he could send a signal far enough. Maybe even reach Earth. As he adjusted course, his console beeped. Incoming transmission. Blocked ID. Then, a voice. Jex Roan. You've taken something that does not belong to you. Saren. Jex didn't answer. You will not survive this game, Saren continued. Surrender the data, and your life may be spared. Jex switched off the comm. An hour later, 2 small ships appeared on his radar. Interceptors. Fast, armed, and closing in. He diverted power to the engines. The ship shook as it pushed to its limits. One interceptor fired. A shot grazed his wing. Warning only. Jex flipped a manual override and veered into a dense asteroid belt. The debris field was unstable, but it was his only chance. He flew low between tumbling rocks, weaving through narrow gaps. The interceptors followed, but less confidently. One struck an asteroid and exploded. The other turned back. Jex broke free from the field, ship damaged but alive. He drifted quietly now, hidden in deep space. The stars stretched around him like a silent sea. He opened one of the files again. A diagram appeared, a timeline of human evolution. It showed what humanity should have become. Abilities, intelligence, unity. The elders had stunted it all, caged it like fire in a bottle. Jex leaned back, eyes tired but clear. They didn't protect us, he said. They feared us. His ship floated on toward the drift. No more running. Next, he would find a way to speak to the galaxy, even if it meant starting a war. Jex Roan's ship touched down on Orion Drift just before the system's second sun rose. The landing pad was cracked and overgrown with frost vines. No guards, no security. Perfect. Orion Drift had once been a trade post before the elders declared it unstable and unfit for habitation. That was a lie, like so many others. The truth was simpler. Rebels used this place to communicate in secret. Now, only the brave, or the desperate, came here. Jex stepped out, boots crunching on icy gravel. The air was thin but breathable. He pulled his coat tight and headed for the main outpost, a squat, dome-shaped building half buried in the rocks. Inside, it was dark, silent. Lara, he called, you still alive? A light flicked on. A figure appeared from behind a console, tall, slim, with short black hair and sharp eyes. Lara Sin, smuggler, ex-hacker, and a voice Jex trusted. You look like hell, she said. Good to see you too, Jex replied. They sat in the comm room, lights low, screens glowing. Jex showed her the data, everything he'd copied from the vault beneath Alaris. The files glowed with diagrams, old footage, and secret reports. Lara said nothing for a long time. So, they slowed us down, she finally said. Changed us. Yes. And they told everyone it was for peace. Jex nodded. But it was fear. Control. Lara leaned back. You know what happens if this goes public? I do. Chaos. Panic. Maybe war. Jex looked her in the eye. But truth. Real freedom. She sighed. I'll prep the signal, but you're taking the blame if this galaxy burns. Outside, hidden in the shadows of the cliff, a dark shape moved. Sleek armor, silent feet. Saren Vox had arrived. He crouched behind a fallen comm dish, scanning the outpost. Heat signatures showed 2 people inside. One was Roan. The other, unknown. He tapped his wrist console. Target confirmed. Interference minimal. He moved. Back inside, Lara activated the old relay system. Static buzzed through the speakers. This place still runs on scrap, she muttered. Jex was about to respond when the power flickered. Then a voice echoed from the shadows. Step away from the console, Roan. Jex turned. Saren stood at the doorway, weapon raised, calm as ever. Lara reached for her sidearm. Don't. Saren said. I'm not here to kill you, yet. Jex raised his hands. How did you find us? I always find what belongs to the elders, Saren replied. And you've taken something very valuable. I didn't steal the truth, Jex said. They buried it. Saren stepped closer. You don't understand what you're playing with. The galaxy needs balance. Stability. This, he gestured to the data, will destroy that. It will free people, Jex replied. They'll turn on each other. Maybe, or maybe they'll finally rise. A tense silence followed. Lara slowly shifted her hand to the console. Saren noticed. Don't. She froze. I could kill you both, Saren said. Take the cores. End this now. But you haven't, Jex said. Saren's jaw tightened. You've seen the files, Jex said softly. You know it's true. For a moment, Saren didn't speak. Then he turned and walked out. Lara blinked. That wasn't what I expected. Jex exhaled. He's not just following orders anymore. They stared at the screen. The relay still buzzed, waiting. Let's finish what we started, Lara said. Jex nodded. Outside, Saren stood in the snow, eyes closed. His belief in the elders had never cracked before. But something inside him now was shifting, quiet and dangerous. The skies above Orion Drift were dark when Jex and Lara made their final jump. Their destination, Dara's moon, a cold, forgotten world on the edge of neutral space. Buried there was an ancient rebel archive, built before the elders erased the movement. It was the last place Jex knew he could finish his mission. Lara piloted the ship. Jex sat beside her, holding the memory cores like a live wire. The data felt heavier every hour. Not just secrets, history, stolen futures. The weight of what humanity was meant to be. Are you sure about this? Lara asked. No, Jex said. But I'm done running. The ship touched down near a jagged mountain. Wind howled through the canyon. They made the climb on foot, dragging their gear behind them. At the peak, they found it. A round door built into the rock, old but intact. Jex keyed in a code passed down by old contacts. The door opened with a deep groan. Inside, the air was dry and cold. Rows of consoles and relay towers sat in the dark, waiting. Lights flickered to life as they stepped inside. This place still breathes, Lara whispered. Jex moved to the main console. He plugged in the memory cores. Lights blinked. A soft hum filled the chamber. It's ready, he said. He paused. Once this goes out, we can't take it back. Lara didn't answer. She just nodded. Outside, the sound of boots in the snow broke the silence. Saren Vox stood at the edge of the cliff, overlooking the entrance. He had followed the ship, alone. No drones, no backup. Inside, the upload began. Bars of green filled the screen, one by one. 24%, 41%, 67%. Then, boom, the door exploded inward. Jex grabbed Lara and ducked. Saren entered through the smoke, weapon drawn. You should have stopped, he said calmly. Jex stood slowly. I tried. You didn't listen. Saren fired. Jex dove behind the console. Sparks flew. Lara fired back. Wild shots, forcing Saren to cover. Jex yelled, "The upload. Cover me." Lara nodded and ran to the other side of the room, drawing Saren's fire. Jex crawled to the console, shielding it with his body. 84%. 90%. Saren moved quickly, precise. A shot hit Lara's side. She cried out and fell. Jex stood, holding the last core in his hand. Saren stepped forward, gun aimed at Jex's chest. Don't make me do this, Saren said. Jex looked him in the eye. You already did. He slammed the core into the console. 100%. Upload complete. A wave of energy pulsed through the room. The relay tower lit up, sending the signal across the stars. Saren lowered his weapon. You just doomed your people. No, Jex said. I gave them a chance. Lara lay on the floor, breathing hard but alive. Jex helped her sit up. Saren didn't move. He stood still, staring at the data flashing across the screens. Images, files, truths long buried, everything he had defended, exposed. He turned without a word and walked out into the snow. Jex and Lara sat in silence, the hum of the relay fading behind them. The truth was out. Now the galaxy would decide what to do with it. The stars were quiet. Jex Roan stood at the edge of a rocky cliff on Dara's moon. Below him, the old rebel relay station flickered with the last of its power. Behind him, Lara sat wrapped in a thermal blanket, resting, her side bandaged. She was alive, but just barely. The signal had gone out. Jex watched the sky, waiting for a sign, any sign, that someone had heard them. Then his wrist console buzzed. One message, then another, then more. Dozens, hundreds, encrypted messages from across the galaxy. Received, confirmed. We see it. Is this real? How long have they hidden this? What do we do now? Jex felt something shift in his chest. Not relief, not yet, but something like hope. Far across the stars, on Earth, in colonies, on orbiting stations, screens lit up with pieces of the truth. People watched old files of humanity's lost progress, of elder manipulation, of stolen futures. Some cried, some screamed, some simply stared. In dark corners, quiet groups began to meet. Scientists, fighters, leaders. For the first time in generations, people began to question the elders, not with fear, but with fire. Back on Dara's moon, Lara woke with a soft groan. Jex sat beside her. It worked, he said. She smiled weakly. Good. You still look like hell. He laughed. It was short, but real. What now? She asked. I don't know, he said. We'll be hunted, probably worse. But the truth is out. That was the goal. Lara looked up at the stars. Feels different now. Jex nodded. It is. On a distant eldership, Saren Vox watched the chaos unfold on his screen. Protests, riots, questions, truth spreading like wildfire. He sat alone in a dark room. No orders, no commands. He closed his eyes. Something inside him had broken, but maybe it needed to. Days passed, then weeks. Jex and Lara vanished into the outer rim, off every grid. But stories began to spread. Whispers of a man who uncovered the truth, a man who gave humanity a choice, a name repeated in hidden channels, rebel networks, and campfire tales. Jex Roan. One day, on a distant farming colony, a young girl stood beside a dusty transmitter. Her grandfather handed her a small device and smiled. She pressed play. A voice came through, calm, tired, strong. They told us not to challenge them. We didn't listen. Now, it's your turn. She looked up at the stars, and she listened.